And welcome back to Gonzo Film Reviews. We have another breaking news episode. It's been a while, but back on the wagon. Today is unfortunate because at the last minute of January, James Gunn has announced his new slate of DC films for the next 8 to 10 years. That's a lot of years. There are many things on the list. Some of them are okay, some of them are pretty terrible. But I think the biggest issue right now is the confliction. You once again have another recasting of Superman. Once again, you have two Batmans on screen at the same time. It's going to confuse people. But something DC has a huge problem with, or has been having a huge problem with recently, is when they mess up with their A list, they tend to turn right to the D list. And I correctly predicted some of these issues from James Gunn's upcoming run. He kind of has a problem with loving D list characters too much. And I don't think you're going to successfully reboot this with D list characters. The slate will begin with the movies. We have Superman Legacy, quoted as the start of the DCU. They claim it's not going to be an origin story, but I mean, just listen to this tagline. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. So it's Man of Steel again, with a new cast and with a new director. Next film is going to be The Authority. I'm not going to explain who they are because if I need to explain who the characters are in any of these films, then it's pretty much proof that Gunn loves D-list characters that nobody knows about, and the average film-going audience is not going to know who the hell they are, what kind of movie to expect. So I'm honestly just going to gloss over any of the ones that are not mainstream. The Brave and the Bold. So here's the confliction problem. Matt Reeves already has an incredible Batman series going right now. So what better way to ruin that than to throw in not only a recasted Batman that's going to confuse audiences, but let's put the worst DC character ever written, Damian Wayne, and drop him right in the middle of it. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. This one is touted as a very different type of Supergirl, and I hope so because the CW show was absolute garbage. And one of the only ones that I'm interested in seeing is Swamp Thing. It is said to investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing. They have no release date for this one. And then on to television. Creature Commandos, animated series for HBO Max. So if you have no idea what that is, I don't blame you. Nobody does. And then another problem with this reboot is that we're going to still have holdovers from Zack Snyder anyway, because Viola Davis is going to be playing Waller again for a prequel show for HBO Max. It's also going to include Peacemaker characters. So that's already not making much sense. He's rebooting, but he's still keeping pre-reboot characters in, and he's not recasting everyone. So that'll go well. And then Lanterns. This actually seems like one of the few projects here that I can get behind. It's going to follow Jon Stewart and Hal Jordan and several other Lanterns in a show for HBO Max, it looks like. And then bizarrely, there's going to be a Paradise Lost show for HBO Max, which Safran is calling a Game of Thrones-ish story, set on the island of Themyscira before the birth of Wonder Woman. So we're going pre-Wonder Woman, Game of Thrones Themyscira show. I don't get where that came from, and I don't understand the appeal of introducing a new Wonder Woman this way. Or if they don't have a new Wonder Woman, and if they carry over Gal, it's yet another casting issue where they're saying it's a reboot, but you still have Snyder actors in it. Then Booster Gold. So that's your slate. That's the bold new direction of DC for the real fans. I'm not sure how they're going to make this new Batman work when you have a much superior one going in Matt Reeves' direction. And general audiences are already confused because all over Twitter with these announcements, you see people asking why Robert Pattinson has left the role. Where is he? Why is he not involved? And they're recasting Batman again. I don't want it. I mean, honestly, at this point, the only thing he didn't announce was a Lego Batman 2, which honestly would have been far more interesting than half of the things that he did announce. I'm just not sure where he's trying to go. He's trying to connect C and D list characters to a couple of the A list, while at the same time only recasting half of the A list, but trying to hold on to Snyder castings because they're claiming that The Flash this June is going to rewrite the entire universe. I guess that's fine, sort of. But you have the problem there of Ezra Miller. Nobody likes him. He's a criminal. He's pleading guilty to crimes. What if Flash flops and nobody sees how this stupid universe gets rebooted? I've always been more of a DC guy than a Marvel guy, but it's undeniable that they've been a complete mess. Warner Brothers and now Warner Brothers Discovery has no idea what they're doing. Absolutely none. The only good decision they've made is giving Nolan and Reeves a series. That's pretty much it. And right now, their problem is going to be selling people on this vision that DC is the same as Marvel. So when we throw some Z-lister out there like Ant-Man that nobody cares about, we can still find a way for it to make money because it connects to other Z-listers nobody cares about. And then eventually they all connect to some big A-list film like a Justice League or an Avengers movie. But I figured that DC already failed to copy the business model of Marvel with Snyder's work being rushed and just announcing all of these films and spin-offs and shows that they could not even commit to financially and creatively, and they ended up with pretty much multiple slates that got completely wiped out, deleted, altered, changed, rebooted. So if James Gunn wants to make this brand great for film and TV, and he wants to connect everything, and he wants the same actors playing the same characters through animation, TV shows, and films, live action, and animated films. It's going to take a lot of effort, which he seems to be willing to put forth, but it also takes delicate, to say the least, creative decisions, and some of these decisions are just abominable. It's going to be really dumb to hold over any castings from Snyder. So Aquaman 2 with Jason Momoa, they're not taking that off the slate. They're not really reshooting it. So he's going to stay as Aquaman. It just causes all these issues with everything Aquaman did in the Snyder movies. Because Aquaman was part of that big dramatic Justice League movie that DC admitted to destroying, and then they let Snyder re-release, which started this whole Restore the Snyderverse movement. And that caused more issues for DC because they were right in the middle of trying to reboot everything, and you have all these fans demanding that Snyder actually be brought back. So suffice to say, they're not bringing Snyder back, but they're also not delivering an alternative that makes any sense. Because is Aquaman going to be Jason Momoa? Because Aquaman is post-Flash. So if Flash reboots the universe, we're supposed to just accept the fact that now Aquaman is the same, but he has completely different memories? Amnesia? I guess. But then if Aquaman is the same, just with modified memories, why is Ben Affleck's Batman gone, replaced by whoever it's going to be replaced by, to make this dreadful, horrible Damian Wayne story? And why is Wonder Woman not born yet? Is she going to be played by Gal or not? Is Wonder Woman 3 going to happen? Like, we just don't have any answers to any of this. And that's fine. I'm not demanding to know everything from the outset. But if you're going to release a slate detailing the next 8 to 10 years, and you're trying to win over average moviegoers and the general populace, wouldn't it make a little bit of sense to make at least some of it clear to them? Because I'm a nerd. If the nerds are confused, the general population is going to be more confused. So what I'm getting from all this is a mixed bag of confusion, poor planning, and just creative differences. Damian Wayne, I'm not really alone on this in saying that he's pretty much one of the worst characters ever. I've heard a lot of people say the same. They hate him. He's a snobby little shit, and nobody likes him. He's irredeemable. He never gets any better throughout any of these damn stories he's in. And he's always just the steaming pile of shit, smudging the screen of any story they try to put him in, or ruining any comic book. And Grant Morrison pretty much just wrote him to annoy the hell out of his readers and get them to quit reading his stuff. And it worked. So I'm not totally sure what they want from us. What do you want? What the hell is wrong with any other Robin? Any other. We could start with Dick. You don't want to start with Dick? You want him to be Nightwing? That's fine. Show me the Jason Todd story. You don't want to show the Jason Todd story? Okay, fine. Then for the love of God, give me Tim Drake. Why do we have to start with the worst character ever written into the Batman lore? I would rather he took on Polka Dot Man, Kite Man, Condiment King as his sidekicks than to have a movie in which Damian Wayne features in more than 5 seconds. Make no mistake, this is going to be a movie all about Damian. And whoever this new Batman is going to be completely crushed by a snobby little brat. Because that's been a staple of all of Damian's stories. He can beat anyone. He's better at fighting than his father. And then there's the slippery slope, too, of if you want to include Damian, you have to include how Damian got conceived. So either on film or in passing or in flashback, the rape of Bruce by Talia is going to have to be addressed. And in today's climate, I'm not sure how that's going to go down. I suppose we'll see. I guess the feminists would probably support that little angle, but you never know. It's just, it's the last thing I would have done if I was trying to reboot Batman and have his whole stupid Bat Family concept, since a lot of children are whining that they want Batman to be surrounded by kids and have a family because it totally makes more sense. Than a traumatized individual beating people up on his own. Yeah, probably the first course of action that a traumatized loner who needs to keep his identity secret, probably the first course of action he would take is to start a family. Right? It's only logical. Big reason why I hope Matt Reeves doesn't let anyone influence his vision, and it's a huge reason why I hope Matt Reeves never bothers to bring in any Robins or kids or family members, because I don't care who trained you. You're 12, 13 years old. You're getting shot in the face by criminals. You're getting shot in the face. It's not 1940s comic books anymore. They've contemporized these characters. And when you contemporize characters, you bring them into today's world, today's technology, today's weapons, today's criminals and terrorists. You don't see a lot of mercy for a 13-year-old boy who's not wearing any pants and who's coming to beat you up in the middle of your drug deal. No, he's going to get shot in the face. That's at least how the film would go. If I was directing it, you would have Talia bringing Damien in. Hey, Bruce, you want to babysit your alleged son that you may or may not have had when I may or may not have raped you years ago? Well, I've been raising him as a League of Shadows assassin. Babysit him. First night out. The toy maker shoots Damien in the fucking face. And that's it. And then Bruce gets to text Talia, I messed up. Your son is dead. Whoops. Maybe he shouldn't have gone and tried to fight heavily armed criminals as a child, not wearing any pants. Grant Morrison had other ideas for Batman that were pretty terrible. That Batman Incorporated is just a bad run. The Return of Bruce Wayne is a pretty good book. I have that one. I would like to see an adaptation of that. I mean, down the line, that'd be interesting. But that would mean in the meantime, we have another one of those, fake Batman skirmishes where people try to take up the mantle. They're nowhere near as good. Nobody cares about them, and everybody's just sitting around waiting for Bruce to come back anyway. Morrison tried that. Scott Snyder even tried that when he was running out of ideas towards the end of his run. It's so weird that there just seems to be nobody who knows how to do this character. But at the same time, there's so much material in comics on him that's good. They could draw from, and nobody does. Matt Reeves seems to be the only one. Because even Nolan's trilogy, it was good, but it over contemporized character. It brought him down to earth a little too hard. He was basically just a guy that you can mistake for former military intelligence or a former Navy SEAL wearing a bulletproof vest, tackling crime in Chicago. That's basically Nolan's trilogy. It wasn't very bad, but it definitely wasn't true to the comics. And it looks like James Gunn is not going to be either. Sadly, it looks like he's pulling from some of the worst runs. So we'll see where that goes, but I have no high hopes for DC anymore until I see some consistent proof over a 3 to 5 year period of growth and change, and they can promise interesting stories that I'm going to want to come back and see the follow ups to. They haven't done that to me for years. So here's to hoping they get their shit together and this slate works out, but I'm seeing a lot of problems on its face already. And it's going to be a long road to redemption for them. They've already messed up on Batman. And the Superman movie, which is coming out in June 2025, it has a chance to surprise me. But from what they're saying, it's just going to be a happier version of Man of Steel. And Man of Steel might end up being the superior film between the two. We will see. Swamp Thing sounds very intriguing. I'm definitely going to watch that one. I'll watch the Themyscira show because a Game of Thrones Paradise Island actually sounds pretty intriguing. But this slate is almost as messy as what they were trying to clean up. So it'll be interesting to see if their mess is smaller than the previous mess, or if their mess is interesting enough to watch that you forget about the old mess. And maybe that's their actual goal. Create a dumpster fire with a better smelling bacon in it. But this slate, it's confusing. It's a little disjointed. But there's a little bit of hope. There's a couple bright spots. And we'll see if he's able to tie everything together and make it better than the last mess they had. But anyway, this was a little breaking news episode. I had to drop it quickly as the news dropped. It's been a while since I made an episode anyway. I've been building up for a season 2 launch. I didn't want it to be this, but here we are. The next episode is going to be covering a lot of the great films that crashed in at the end of last year. So we have Puss in Boots and Babylon, maybe a little bit of an Avatar. I haven't watched it, so probably no Avatar. But then upcoming, there are also some reviews that I need to finish. I have a part 2 to the Gotham Knights game I need to review. I am going to officially give my full review on The Lord of the Rings Season 1. And I don't feel the Game of Thrones review is necessary. I think most people are in pretty solid agreement about House of the Dragon. I feel like Lord of the Rings is more... There's a more pressing need for us to talk about it and see if there's ways that we can give feedback to the studio, because it has bigger problems. But yeah, this was my DC rant. In the next episode, look forward to Puss in Boots, Babylon, and an Oscar rant, in which I completely deconstruct, once again, for the second consecutive year, the stupidity of the voters of that institution, why no one watches their stupid show anymore, but why their nominations always piss people off. Because they always leave out the best in each category. And they'll throw in some subcategories for some films, like, oh, well, see, we nominated it for something. That's very nice, but you didn't nominate it for what it was best at this year. For the love of God, that's literally your only job. You have one job. And somehow you manage to fail every single year. So that will be coming next, but what are your thoughts on DC's new film slate? I know I grazed over it because I'm annoyed at how many things I correctly predicted would be on here. I'm annoyed that they're including Damian for no reason. I'm annoyed that they're going to have multiple Batmans. I'm annoyed that they're semi-soft rebooting Man of Steel, but making the same basic type of Superman movie as Man of Steel anyway. I'm annoyed that they're keeping some actors but recasting others. I'm annoyed that they're keeping old plot threads but claiming that one Flash movie is going to make them make sense. But do a deep dive on the slate. Have a look at everything on it. And let me know what you think. Until next time, stay annoyed, I guess.